So, hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Now, today I wanted to talk a little bit about tackling gym intimidation. So, I thought, what better way to do this than to bring in someone who is a pro at building confidence in
You're too
others?
kind, Joey. Hello, everyone.
Hi, and that person is Julia. Welcome, Julia. How
Hi,
are you
Joey. Thanks for
today?
inviting me. Thanks for having me, and definitely hyping me. The word pro. I wouldn't say so, but I can admit I've been in the game for a while, and I have gone through gym intimidation or gym intimidation, as we like calling it, and it's a real thing even now,
Yeah,
depending
I
on
agree.
circumstances. So thanks for having me and tackling that subject.
No, don't be silly. So, would you mind just telling us a little bit about who you are, what you do, who you work with?
Absolutely. So I've been a strength and conditioning coach. I work with women. I'm a transformation coach online for ladies over 35. And I've been training quite a while. I would say more than half of my life. So I've been through all the phases of joining new gyms, doing new things, looking silly, and gym intimidation has definitely been a vibe in all those situations. And regardless of where I am at the moment and how long I've been in the game, it still exists. And I'm very happy you're talking about this subject because many of my clients face it daily. But there is good news. We can handle it, and we, with the right strategies and certain kind of rewiring, brain rewiring methods, we can cope with it and overcome and then thrive.
Definitely, I love that. So,
What do you think? Like, do you still feel gym intimidation?
yeah, definitely. I think, like you say, it's something even now, if I perhaps go to a different space, or even if I'm just training at a different time of day in my usual gym, you can feel such a different range of emotions going into a space just based on like your safety nets being pulled away from you, whether that is like your training buddy, your specific time that you go, or your even actual gym. I think it's so interesting to tackle it and kind of like destigmatize it. Because I think people see like,
Amazing what you said. You know that I never thought about it. Like, this is pretty obvious when you change the gyms, but actually changing even the time that you train and not having those familiar faces around you also makes a difference. Wow, that's a good shot. I never thought about it, but it is, there is something about it. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's massive. Like I again didn't think about it myself until I went. I normally go at like 9-ish, 10 a.m. And I ended up going at 6, 7 p.m. one day. And even I was like, oh my
And
God,
it's
where
packed
am
and it's a
I?
peak
Yeah,
time at that
yeah,
time. Yeah. So you really put yourself into a little bit of an ordeal. Yeah.
yeah.
For all sorts of reasons, not just gym intimidation, but finding equipment, right?
It's a different ball game, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you mind going way, way, way back to your first time stepping into a gym? How did you feel? Like, do you have any memories that come back with that?
The thing is, it's not that clear, to be honest,
Mm,
because I've been in different sports. I've done performance sports first without really gymming heavily and not joining any gyms, commercial gyms, let alone bodybuilding gyms. I had coaches that were preparing me for different sports disciplines. So I've done martial arts, I've done kickboxing, I've done speed ice skating, and athletics in my youth and in my early 20s, and that kind of required a little bit of strength and conditioning. But it was like, you're a kid, you're a teenager. It was, even though I competed and it was like on a semi-pro later in kickboxing, for example, it still, I feel, was a silly level compared to when you enter a big space like gym. So I've never actually grasped the idea of how to structure your strength training until I went to the gym. And I think I have to pinpoint this moment when I went on my own without coaches to the gym. And
mhm.
it was bloody scary. Even though I've been coming, like I was coming from this sports environment, it was actually, I think, properly here in London. I'm originally Polish, born and bred, and moved here 14 years ago. And I think the first time I actually joined a gym on my own without a coach behind me was here. So not only a new space, kind of, but also a new country. And I didn't know the rules here. Yeah, it was bloody scary. And I felt like a total beginner, trust me. Do you remember
Yeah.
yours?
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. Like you've come from such a strong background, like you've got all this training behind you, and even still having that background, putting yourself into this situation still gives you a little bit of like a fear or intimidation. I find so
A little bit.
interesting.
I wouldn't say a little. Trust me. I was terrified, honestly, because the gym was massive. I think it was one of the gym groups at that time.
Yes.
And I felt like everyone's watching me. I felt stupid. I didn't know where things are. And obviously, because of a big space, it wasn't easy just to spot what others were doing. I mean, it was a mess.
I think as well, like what you say with those kind of gyms, like the big warehousey open house plan gyms, they are quite scary going into them. I remember the first gym I went into was like a teeny tiny bodybuilding gym, which at the time was terrifying. But then like when I went into one of these open warehouse gyms, it was a whole new level of, I think you're just so overwhelmed with how much space there is.
Space
And
and equipment that you've never seen. And
yes,
you know what comes
exactly.
to my mind straight away? Because I've been recently only training in bodybuilding gyms, but I've
Hmm.
changed for the biggest one in London, and which is laid out throughout 2 floors.
Oh,
And I
wow.
went there and I was like, what the hell are those machines about? Like, after 12 years of literally training consecutively and regularly, I still feel like there is 40% of equipment have no idea how to use. So this is a one big proof that no matter how far in the game you are, you will still find yourself in places that are completely new. And I bet there are gyms like maybe in the States that would still have even more
I was just
equipment
about to
that we have no
say,
idea of, right?
I was about to say, like, I have a few clients that are in the States and they send me videos of equipment. They're like, what is this? And
What is
I'm
it?
like, I don't know. I'm completely honest with you guys. I have no idea what that's meant to do.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
that's,
Ask the PT on the gym floor there, right? We
but
can find out together.
I think it's
Wow.
so interesting when you look at things like that. Like, my approach in the past was always like, I have no idea what that is. I'm going to avoid it and kind of stay away from it. But as soon as I flipped it and was like, right, if you think of it as a bit of a game, and you look at this equipment, most gyms now they have like the little signs, don't they, that explains how to use equipment or a little QR code. Maybe not so much in bodybuilding
Yeah.
gyms, but more commercial spaces have these little blueprints that show you how to use things. And I find it so interesting to try these new pieces of equipment and actually figure it out and see whether or not these instructions are actually helping me or whether or not it's just kind of giving me a wishy-washy answer. But I think it's about finding the joy in like, oh, okay, it's a bit of a game. Like, how do I actually use this piece of equipment? Is this going to help me? And normally when I do that, I actually end up loving it, even if it's something a bit weird. I'm like, oh, okay, I figured this out. Maybe I can
Yeah,
throw this in
because
and mix things up.
it's also totally, I think, a matter of doing something new. Obviously, once we're familiar with things, we're comfortable with them. And this is exactly how we get comfortable and confident about things.
Mm.
But how to progress further, if not stepping outside of your comfort zone, through simple steps like this. Let's try a new piece of equipment that I have no idea about. And funny you said that about those little QR codes and descriptions. Yeah, they don't exist in bodybuilding gyms. So you literally either have to work things out on your own or be cheeky and just watch how others do it.
Mm.
Or my favorite, actually, because I've done it a few times, I was watching people and I remember I thought I've got a grip on one of the machines, the booty machines, it was in particular, I remember. And I kept doing that thing, like that exercise, thinking I'm doing it right, like consecutive weeks, until someone actually stopped me, like, is this what you're planning to do? Like, this is intentional? Or are you actually misusing it? Because it's not how you're supposed to do it. And of course, yeah, then literally a few second embarrassment, but then I was grateful that someone approached me, and it was actually a very tactful way of approaching me. So I'd rather now actually ask someone, and trust me, people actually appreciate, like, it boosts their ego as well.
Massively. I was going to say, like, I think
A little bit
people,
like, oh, I'm being asked. I know things, right? Do you
yeah,
ask people how to use machines, or ask if you do things correctly?
yeah, no, I think that's true. Like, I used to have this thing of going in and being like, right, I need to look like I know what I'm doing. I need to be like looking like everything is kind of smooth and slick and just moving from place to place. But when you actually think about it, half the people in there want to be asked. It's weird. Like if you see someone doing something, even if they look like the scariest person ever, if you just go like, oh, do you mind just showing me how to do that? They'll completely flip and they'll be the friendliest person in the world. And
Better.
they'll
I've got a
explain to
little
you.
trick. I've got
Mm,
a trick how to ask because I do it with my clients. Do you want to
yes,
hear about it?
absolutely. Go for it.
Because like if you're scared to ask, like, do you mind to show me how to use it? I always say, like, I've seen like how great your back looks, can you show me that machine? Or like, I would assume by looking at you, you're in such a great shape that you know how to use that machine. And this is like a compliment, and at the same time being cheeky, finding out how to use the machine. So no one would mind first being complimented. We all love that,
Absolutely.
right? And that's like a breaking ice moment when, okay, that's an intro. I'm in your good books. Let's ask now the question, actually, how the hell this machine works. Yeah, that's a good method. So do you have strategies for your clients how to deal with gym intimidation?
I was
How do
gonna,
are your clients gym intimidated? I would assume so. Like we all are, right?
yeah, I think it's like you say, it's more common than we think. I think most people, despite how confident or experienced they are in the gym, still get it. And I think I kind of have three things that I say to clients. The first thing is to kind of start on a piece of cardio equipment. Because again, I don't know how it works with bodybuilding gyms, but in most commercial gym spaces, the cardio is kind of the center and it
Yeah,
overlooks everything else.
smart. I
So
know
if,
where you're going with it. Nice.
yeah. So if you're starting on the piece of cardio equipment, you can kind of, even if it's just an incline walk on a treadmill, you can start scouting around and seeing where things are
Yes.
located. So obviously by this point, you've hopefully got a plan or a structure of what you've come to the gym to do. So you can start looking around and going, okay, this is here, this is there, so and so's using it like this, so I can copy them using it like this. And you kind of start to relax into the space a bit more. That's my tip number one. Tip two,
Amazing. Love it.
tip two I always give is as like fickle and vain as it seems. I think if you feel like you look your best, you feel more confident. And it's such a small little thing. But if you are wearing like gym outfit that you feel great in, you go into the space feeling great and it just ticks one more thing off in the confidence book. Like I've been to spaces before where I've like, it gets to the end of the week and you've not got much left in like, your gym wear and you wear like a
Yeah.
bit of a mishmash outfit and I feel awful in myself. And I can tell it in my session. Like I'm going to the leg press and I'm like, oh, I hate this t-shirt. And I'm thinking about this outfit more than I'm thinking
I
about
have it.
the
Like
leg
it's for me,
press.
it's color coding. What the hell was I
Mm.
thinking wearing, I don't know, orange and green? I don't know even if it goes well. I'm not too good with colors.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel you. Or like, well, these are baggy. I thought they are actually tight. Or other way around. I wanted them baggy and they are actually too tight. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
so true. I think people overlook it so much. I think you think, I'm going to the gym, I'll just chuck on anything. And then you get there and you suddenly realize that clothes are a confidence layer in themselves. And if you've not got something that you feel comfortable and confident in, I think it just tips you down massively and just kind of starts the downward spiral of this intimidation thing. I think the third
Mm.
thing I always say is you can look at it in two ways. I always say have a good playlist. Now,
Mhm.
this can be like, I don't know, whatever songs you like, whatever pumps you up, or it can be a podcast. And I find with lots of people I speak to, if they've got a podcast in, it distracts them. Whereas
Yeah.
music, sometimes it makes you a little bit, all right, okay, and builds the anxiety and kind of hypes that senses up. Whereas if you have a podcast, you're so tuned into listening to what it is, you kind of forget about everything else that's around you and you just go through like, not go through the motions, but you go through the plan without really second thought to it.
Interesting. So you're saying that actually podcast is better for kind of focus and music can be more destructive, yeah?
I think it depends on the person and the situation. So I've
Mhm.
spoke to a few clients before that have been in a gym in peak time, like we were saying before. And normally they have like their playlist, they love it, they've got their songs ready to go. But because there's so much going on around them anyway, and then they've also got this like heavy like gym playlist going on in their head, it can be a little bit overstimulating for them. So we were kind of
I
doing
see.
experiments between
Okay.
like different types of
Mm.
music, different types of podcasts. And the thing that most people came back with, for me anyway, was listening to more of not an educational podcast, but more of how we are now, just chatting. And it's so
Yeah.
you get so involved in a
Not like a
conversation.
deep psychology with daily tasks, to-do lists and whatever not, like just something lighter.
Yeah,
Mhm.
something like just, I don't
Okay.
even know, like there's so many things like parenting
Yeah,
hell and all
people
these
chatting shit,
things.
simply.
Yeah, exactly,
Hopefully,
exactly.
it's not what we're doing here now. Give them some value. But you know what? Your list of strategies actually pretty much covers what I do with my clients. I definitely love the idea about jumping on a cardio machine and just looking around. Yeah, in some gyms it's possible more than in the others, sure.
Mm,
With the with that, there's one more thing that you didn't mention, and I do, and I realized not that long ago that actually it does help me not only with maybe overcoming gym intimidation, but also overcoming the lazy moments and kind of talking myself out from going to the gym. And sometimes
hmm.
one of the reasons why people might talk themselves out from doing so is actually because they are a bit stressed and intimidated, and they're like, oh no, again, I need to enter that space. It's basically setting up a ritual that is like creating the habit and like little steps leading to you leaving to the gym.
I
So for
love
me, for
that.
example, is firstly, like I do it probably from bottom up rather than up the bottom, or
Hmm.
from the other end. So I literally put my clothes on and shoes on. And then, yeah, many people would probably tell me off for this, but then I walk around the house in shoes and I prepare my pre-workout food. I don't use pre-workout supplements, but for me,
This
it's
is
always
something I
like this.
find
Yeah, go on.
fascinating. Sorry, no, I was going to say this is something I always find really fascinating about you as well. And I think for my clients and my demographic will find this really interesting as well. Like you don't use pre-workouts and you go with energy foods
Mhm.
instead. So I just a
Yeah.
sidetrack. We can come back to that, but I really want to tap into
Yeah,
that.
that's probably for another podcast, babe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. I have my food, and this is like a staple meal that my brain switches on. Okay, she's going to do the workout, especially if I add an extra bit of this, an extra bit of that. So for me, it's Greek yogurt, a certain amount. It's like 250 grams, and either kiwi or 100 grams of mango and then dried banana, and then I mix it, and that while I'm preparing it I'm slowly tuning into that vision of being in the gym. And honestly, it might sound stupid, but until you start doing it you then catch, and I had to do it for so many times to actually realize what it does to me. Like, now it's happening, like there is no way back. The shoes are on, the food is on, like I'm getting prepped, and then I'm eating, and I'm no longer stressed that, oh my God, I need to go to the gym. For whatever
Mm.
reasons you build that resistance, it's gone. And it's like, that's just part of that ritual. And then I cycle to the gym. So it's like, yeah, then I can't even talk myself out of it. So that's that. And with music, do you know what? I actually find it other way around. But this is me personally. That
Hmm.
podcasts actually distract me, and I don't know how many reps have I done. What did I do? Or what did he say on the podcast? Like, I want to rewind. So I'm like, maybe for a warm up, that would be good. Like to tune us off, like you say, in this lighter manner, rather
Hmm.
than pumping straight. I don't know, Limp Bizkit. And yeah, or Slayer. Yeah, like I like also that 15-minute routine of warming up. So even if I'm feeling like, oh my God, I don't want to do it, that mat moment when you do mobility is also like the time when you could probably scatter around and see what's where, and kind of feel like now I belong here because I've just entered. Like you feel like a newbie, regardless how many times you've been in the same gym. Like
Mm.
people still watch who's entering, who's coming. Now you've been on the mat good 15 minutes or 10, you kind of more like you warmer to that workout and in this place. What do you think about
Yeah.
the
No,
ritual
just
thing?
yeah, I love that. And just touching on as well, when you're saying about you feel people are watching you, how would you suggest to other people or even do yourself with tackling that? Because there's a lot of people I speak to feel maybe even it's not true that they are scared that people are watching them. And that's half the battle of the intimidation is these eyes that are peering over and they don't feel confident enough in what they're doing to be watched. So how would
Mhm.
you tackle that, or how do you feel like you have been tackling that?
The thing is, I say two things because
Hmm.
it is not others' problem, it is our problem, because people are not that interested in us as much as we think. And
I
that's the first
agree.
thing I tell my girls. Like, I'm a badass. I want all my clients, female clients, but also male clients, everyone to be a badass, because mostly the anxiety comes from overthinking and overanalyzing, and we're not as important to others as we think. So people might just glimpse. but they are not going to keep watching like, oh, look what she's doing, look what she's wearing. Even if there is like a moment when you meet eyes with someone, catch eyes with someone, then it's like a second and they already forgot who you are, where you are, what you do. So that's one thing, like overcome your thoughts more than what others do, because everyone is mostly interested in what they do. And even if they rest, they just stare blindly and like randomly in the abyss. It's
Hmm.
not that they are literally watching and counting your reps. And another thing, if you want to become a person that is confident and faces problems head on, you need to do those little scary things, because that's how you're becoming that person, not through sitting in the comfort. That's how you progress and grow. But this is more psychological than actual strategy. What do you do? Like you
Yeah.
need to work with yourself, and it doesn't happen overnight for sure.
No, I agree. And I think as well, like there's two things I have on that as well. One is that you have to think about when you catch yourself staring at someone in the gym, why are you doing it? So for instance, if you're sat there stretching and you see someone like even what we were talking about earlier, you go on the treadmill and you look around, you're
Mm,
staring because you don't know what you're doing and you think they do. So you're trying to learn
mm.
from someone else. So you've got to think about it the other way around, that someone might be watching you and thinking, oh wow, I've not seen that stretch or that mobility drill before. Let's have a little watch and see what they're doing. And equally, I think it's about learning and taking, like this whole give and take thing is such a massive thing in a gym space. And we don't really talk about it, but it is, you're always looking, like even what we were saying right at the beginning, like you look at someone or someone comes over to you and says, oh, are you meant to be doing the booty trainer like that?
Yeah,
And you're constantly exchanging this information with people, whether you know it or not, just by watching and taking things on. So I
yeah.
think it is really psychological, but it's a two-way thing. Like we do it as well. So we have to tap into the thought of, okay, well, so I'm doing it because of this reason. So maybe they're not just looking at me because I'm doing it wrong. Maybe they're looking at it because I'm doing it right.
Yeah, and you know what? The funny thing is that who are we mostly intimidated by? We're mostly intimidated by people that are probably better than us and look better than us and look like pros, or maybe they are dressed with confidence and move with confidence. So I can guarantee you guys, like I would be that person to some beginners, but in the gyms that I go to, I'm not probably that person like that. I don't really stand fully for bodybuilding because I don't think it's healthy sports, but and it's too extreme. But I just like being surrounded by people that know things better than me. And trust me, whoever is better than you will never pull you apart just because pull you apart, tear you apart, right?
Both, yeah.
English. Is this correct to say? Tear you
Yeah,
apart, right? Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
so no one that is better and just a few steps ahead from you would tear you apart, just because you're trying new things. And actually, this is much more welcome that you're trying new things and possibly looking around and maybe then ask someone for help or just to have a look at your form than pretending you know it all.
Hmm.
And like this is exactly the place that is very welcoming, and there is no one that judges you just because you're new. And this is on the other way, like on the quite the contrary, people will actually cheer you up because you're new and like, well done for stepping into the new journey of growth and self-development.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, because you have such a unique perspective, because you work with men and women, do you
Mhm.
find that there are different things that affect one and the other confidence-wise when they go into a space?
That's an interesting question. I predominantly work with women for the last, like, minus this year, I was predominantly working with men.
Hmm.
And do you know what? I think as much as we are, like you guys are from Mars and we're for Venus, the thing is, we have things in common. Like this lack of self belief and coming from low self esteem just comes mainly because of the lack of repetition of the thing that is new. So it's like you need to put your reps in to gain it, but it's always the same. It's like fear of being judged, fear of being silly or looking silly or doing a stupid thing. But if you're not willing to look stupid sometimes, but that's also a side comment. You're not going to look stupid to anyone else. It's mostly us being the harshest critics. Like you're not gonna grow and step outside comfort zone and become the person that you want to be. So I wouldn't think it's anything different. It's just fear of comparison. Like comparison is a steal of joy, and that
Mm.
is probably the reason why I think both genders struggle for the with intimidation or that feeling of being inadequate or doing something silly. Have you ever
Yeah.
worked with women, or you actually only work with men?
Yeah, so when I used to be fully in person, majority of my clients were women then. And for me,
Right.
going from having women mixed and then kind of like a varying mix to then fully gay men, I think the biggest commonality between the two that I found is men being the scary thing. So it's not necessarily the equipment or the plan or whatever it is that other people seem to think. I think what I found, again, commonality between the two is that they are scared of men that are like grunting or dropping weights
Mm,
or that kind
yeah.
of like manly behavior is the thing that intimidates people.
Toxic,
Yeah.
toxic masculinity, we call it, right?
Yeah. But it's interesting, like you being in a bodybuilding gym, you must get that to a higher extreme than me in a commercial gym. And I think from my point of view, when I see it in a commercial gym, it's from not from people that are intimidating people. It's they are just doing it because, right, I'm gonna do a deadlift now, so I'm gonna grunt. And then as
It's
soon as
like
they've
a
done that, they
mask,
snap
don't you
back.
think? Don't you think
Mm.
it's like a mask putting of a, I'm such a scary person, you're not gonna look at me or you're not gonna even try judging me? Like, don't you think it's like self-defense a little bit?
I,
Maybe.
maybe then that takes us all the way back to the gym intimidation. Maybe it's them.
Here we go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's their defense mechanism and their way of coping with the whole
Mm,
thing because lots of people find different ways to cope. Like I know I have a good group of people that I know that their way of coping with things is to be a bit of a bitch and to be just to shut
mm.
off and be cold. And
Yeah.
that's their way of defending themselves.
And you know
Whereas
what?
other people do it the opposite way, and their way of coping is to be overly friendly and to kind of make jokes and to
Yes.
have that kind of banter with
Another
people.
extreme. That's so
Mm,
true. And coming back to your question, because we chat and something came to my mind because you asked about the differences, how women or men approach those, in inverted commas, scary moments or first moments of going to the gym. I
mhm,
think with men, like they think they've created this vision that men need to be strong and very exactly manly and lift heavy. And the problem is with men that they actually might look more silly trying to match the same weights what other regular like gym rats, let's call them, do, while being completely new. And this is when they risk being silly
mm,
because it's never too silly, or it's never silly to lift lights with the perfect form, great control, and like muscle mind connection, compared to actually overdoing it with too heavy weight, doing half reps and swinging back and forth, and using momentum rather than the muscle, and that might be coming from this pressure for men to be manly, strong, big, and women obviously don't have that pressure. And I think
mm.
women rather than going with that ego lifting, they rather withdraw. But that's like the difference. But again, what causes this is probably similar. Again, fear of being looking weak, silly, and stuff. Yeah, I
Mm.
think our psychology in this way is similar.
It's fascinating. Like, we could go on for like hours with this. Like,
I
it's so
know.
interesting to dig into the psychology behind this. But we
Yeah.
literally have like 5 minutes left, Julia. So really, really quickly, if someone was like brand new, fresh to the gym, and they are still scared to step foot after listening to this whole conversation, what would be the one or two things that you would summarize to give them as a little parcel of knowledge?
I would say definitely make sure that you have your headphones and whatever you choose, whether it's a podcast or music, is going to cut off, like block the external noise, and you will not even feel like you're in a big gym. And two, know your workout well, like know what you want to do. Even if it's body weight movement somewhere in the corner, it's your first entry to the gym. You don't need to go to the middle of the free weights area. You don't even need to use the machines. Just get to the gym, either that piece of cardio, like you said, or at least do a little bit of warm up mobility on the mat just to get more familiar with the space, see who comes there, and see that not everyone is a pro. And it's actually more welcoming than you think. But you need to have that little safe net that you know at least what you're going there for, and at least have that little comfort of your own favorite music or podcast.
Yes, I love that. Well, amazing. Thank you so much, Julia, for spending the time with me today. I know you're a really,
Lovely
really busy
chatting,
lady.
Joey. Thanks again for inviting me. My
No, don't be
pleasure.
silly. I know you're really busy, so thanks for making the time for me. Before we go, just let everyone know where they can find you, like Instagram, YouTube, where's the best place?
Right. I am on Instagram at Julia Kobryn Fitness. Julia Kobryn, Kobryn Fitness. Where I'm welcoming everyone, but you'll see that I predominantly work now with women. Now I know that your audience is predominantly men, but nonetheless, you possibly can learn something from me as well, or at least peek through what I do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Julia. Have a great day.
Thank you, and you.